Tonight I am going to sandwich these dried flowers between two pieces of very thin picture frame glass. I have taken the dried flowers and put a dab of clear glue on them to hold them in place so that they don't move while I am foiling. This piece, once foiled and soldered, will go in the center of our box top that we've started on here. So I'm going to foil this tonight. So I'm going to set this right here. I want to make sure I don't touch the insides of the glass. I'm going to be using 1/4 inch black backed foil. So this is my foil. As you can see, it has a black back on it. I'm going to do this by hand. I'm going to pull the tape back off of the foil and hold it like this. Try not to touch the glue side of the foil. And then I'm going to hold this together, hold this piece together, and sandwich the flowers in between here. And so we're going to start on this side right here. I want to keep the glass in the middle of my foil. So you want to hold this in such a way that you can see where your glass is going and keep it centered. So I'm going to foil this, like so. I'm going to squeeze this together as good as I can. The centers of my flowers are thicker than the petals. So I want to make sure I'm using 1/4 inch foil so I can make sure that I don't have any flux or liquid to get underneath here once I get it sandwiched together. I need to keep it as dry as possible. So when I solder this, I need to be very careful. Whoops. See what happened here? It doesn't want to stay together. It's shifting on me. So we may have to do more than one round of foil so we can make sure we have it even all the way around. So I'm going to cut this off and I'm going to burnish this all the way around. I'm just using a plastic fid, and now I'm going to pinch my sides, leave my corners till last, pinch all the way around. Do my corners, then take my fid and do the edges of my foil all the way around. Make sure I get it good and tight to the glass. All the way around, burnishing really well. Do the other side, burnish this. Okay, now this is the bottom side. Doesn't really matter. You can look at it from either direction. You see I have a flag right here. I'm going to cut that off. But notice how thick the foil is on the side of the glass right here, but yet right here it's very thin. What's causing that is this side of the flowers, the piece has pushed together better than on this side. There's a bit of a gap between the two pieces of glass. And what's causing that is the thickness of the center of the flower. The center part is thicker than the petals, and so that's what's causing that problem. So now what we're going to do to make it even and to make it look better is I'm going to take this same foil and I'm going to go around it, but I'm going to make it even all the way around. So we're going to do that on the back and the front. Okay, so we're going to do the same. We're going to do this on this side. And what I'm going to do is try to keep it even all the way around, so that when I put it in my box, it will look straight. You won't see the unevenness of the two pieces on here. You won't see how the two pieces of glass, when they put them together, that they're uneven. So we're going to go all the way around, just like we did before. We're going to cut this off. We're going to burnish it, just like we did before. See if you can see it right here. I'm going to burnish the sides. I'm going to pinch it. And then I'm going to burnish. So now this is the front, and you can see it looks even all the way around my piece. Looks very even and framed. The foil is not thicker or thinner on different sides of the glass. So it's the same all the way around, so it looks straight. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I still have a little bit of foil that went over this edge, so I want to make sure I have it burnished as well. So I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but this side I'm going to be framing the back side. So basically I have gone around this 3 times with foil. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did on the other side. I'm going to do it on this side. I want to make sure that where I start and stop is not always in the same spot, so that it's not thick. Okay, so here we go. Want to keep that same distance right here all the way around. Okay. And cut this off. You want to overlap at least 1/8 of an inch right here. Overlap your foil at least 1/8 of an inch. Now we're going to burnish. Same thing. Burnish this edge, these outside edges, pinch it, and then burnish the front and the back of the glass. Pinch, 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 pinch. Get my corners. Turn it over. Burnish this side. Got a little bit of a fold right here. I need to straighten that up, which I just did. Burnish this, and you want this really, really burnished well, because you do not want any flux to get up underneath here and seep in between the 2 pieces of glass, and have a moisture, any kind of moisture between the 2 pieces of glass. So make sure that this is really stuck down really well. When I clean this, I will probably clean it with Quick Clean, because I don't want to run the risk of any water getting in between my glass. I'm going to do the back side. Get that done. And now I have a flag right here. I'm going to cut that off. Make sure I don't have any other flags. I think that's the only one I have. Yep. So I'm going to cut that off. You can use an X-Acto knife. You can use a utility knife. That's what I have right here, so that's what I'm going to use. So, get this off. And let's burnish it one more time. Make sure we got it really good and tight. The whole thing. There we go. So there is the center of our box, just like so. So this will fit right down in here, and we will solder it together. So that will be our next step, is to solder our box together and clean it up really well, or our box top, and we will cut the sides and do the sides of our box and put a hinge on it, and it will be done. So hope to see you tomorrow. We are going to put together the sides of a box. The first thing that we want to do, I've already cut my box sides, and I am going to, and I've ground them and I've foiled them, so that part's already done. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tin the copper foil. That's just simply putting down a very thin layer of solder on the edges. I am using a Hakko 601 iron. I'm using gel flux, and I'm using 60/40 solder. Okay, so I've done this side. I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to tin the other side. Same thing. Some flux. And clean my iron. And I am just going to tin it. I'm using the flat side of my iron tip. And you can do this pretty quickly. You're not trying to build up a bead. You're just trying to cover everything with the solder. Cover the copper foil with the solder. So there we go. Now I'm going to put on my oven mitt, and I'm going to do these outside edges. I do the front and the back edges first, because it tends to hold the solder on these outside edges better if I do that. Okay, go all the way around. Doesn't take much flux. As you can see, I'm using a Q-tip. I didn't even add any solder to my iron, just using the solder that's on my iron. Here we go. Get a little bit of solder and just tin it. All I'm doing is covering it. One more side. Okay. Now the next step is I am going to clean this. I'm going to clean it with Quick Clean before I put it together. So I'm just going to get a little bit of Quick Clean right here on this cloth. This is what I'm using, Quick Clean. I'm going to spray it, and I'm going to wipe it down just to get any residue or dirt from the flux and the solder off. Get it wiped off really good. And this right here is where some solder got on the glass. It will flake right off. See that? Comes right off. Okay, do this other side. Okay, now This R that's on here is to mark that this is the right side of my box, and that will come off. Okay, sometimes it takes a little scrubbing, but it will come off. It was put on with a paint marker. And I use a paint marker because it doesn't come off in the grinder. So it takes a little work sometimes, but you can get it off. Okay, so now next step is to put the sides together. Now that we have all the sides of our box cut, ground, foiled, and tinned, we have all 4 sides done. The next step is to put it together. I'm using a box jig, and I have some layout blocks. These are like styrofoam. Solder will not stick to them and they don't melt. I'm going to set this in here, and what I want to do is I want to line up my box so that my corners are lined up right here, but not overlapping. And then I'm going to tack it together. I'm going to tack solder it together. Make sure when you put it in here that you have, this helps to keep your box square, and you want to make sure that the outside of your box sides is to the outside and the inside of your glass is to the inside. Okay, I have it in here like I want it, and I'm just going to tack it together. I'm going to put some solder here and some solder at the bottom and tack it together. I'm not going to do the whole seam, I'm just going to tack it together. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Solder will run, it's like water. So I'm going to hold it up so you can see what I'm doing. And I am going to tack it together. I'm going to put, oops, I'm going to put a little bit of solder right here to hold it together. Right here at the top. This creates a V groove in the corner of your box, which will help with making your box strong. Okay, so now I'm going to tack it down here at the bottoms, dropping it off of my iron. There we go. This side is tacked. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it. It's still real flimsy. It's not strong. I'm going to turn it, and I am going to do the same thing with this side. I want to make sure that I have my outside to the outside of my glass to the outside and the inside of my glass to the inside of my box. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to put a little bit of flux on here, and now I'm going to tack it together. Just going to put a little bit up here at the top and a little bit up here at the bottom, down here at the bottom, like that. Okay, keep going around my box, doing the same thing. I'm going to go around and put this side on. Make sure I have the inside of my box to the inside and the outside of my box to the outside. All right, got to line this up and do exactly the same thing. Gonna get a little bit of flux, put this on here, and I'm going to tack it together at the top, and I'm going to tack it together at the bottom. All right, now my last corner, same thing. Turning it in my box, lining up my corners so that I create a V groove for my solder to fit down in. Now, got this, solder, add some flux, now add some solder to tack it together. Well, across. There we go. And now we're going to do the bottom. There we go. Okay, now that I have it tacked together, it should be square on all 4 sides. Okay, so we can check the square by doing this. Make sure that it is still square. And I think we're in great shape. Okay, so now I can take this and I can add solder down this V groove. So I'm just going to put some flux here. Get a little bit of solder on my iron, and I am going to fill this groove with solder. I'll move my soldering iron over a little bit. It's kind of in the way. Okay, keep going until I have it filled up with solder. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. I'm just doing a little build up here. Building it up. There we go. It takes it a minute. It's liquid when you first put it on there, so you got to build it up a little bit and then smooth it out. That's it. Let it solidify. You see how it's turning from a bright silver to a darker color or to a more dull finish? That's when it is set. When it turns dull, it is set. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to do that on all 4 sides.